Do you have any games in your collection that you're just like totally okay without ever playing again? I know I do, and I thought that would be a fun video to kind of dive into. And I thought, what are some totally amazing games, at least consensus with, the wider audience, that I'm just totally okay with probably never playing again? Now, that's not a definitive. We'll talk about it. But these are my games, my 10 games that are completely amazing that I would rather not play. My name is Brian. You're watching Game Brigade. Let's get to the first one. And the first one is going to be, let's do this one. This one is probably a gimme because it's so old, but there are iterations of this game. But I feel like this one I've played so much of that it deserves a spot somewhere in a list video, and that's Descent: Journeys in the Dark. This is the original game. This is the original one. Now, this is an expansion. I have all of the games of it still upstairs in a tote, but I figured I'd bring one of them down for this video. Descent: Journeys in the Dark is one of the first true dungeon crawlers that I played. They originally didn't have any sort of campaign play to them. They were all like one-shot scenarios. You would get a little blurb of a story. You would build out this massive dungeon that was fully visible to you. And I'm talking massive, like it would take up the entire table. And you would have a dungeon master or an overlord playing as the evil player who kind of guides the players through the event and, basically playing against them. This system has been, I can't say the word, has been used and developed over the times. Imperial Assault has taken it, Journeys in the Dark uses a very similar system. So definitely a mainstay. But the game is obviously dated in its mechanics, the way it plays, and I have also completed all of the scenarios. I don't know why I still keep this game in my collection, taking up space and taking up room. Maybe it's because it has such good memories for me in playing 45 individual scenarios. Now, they did eventually launch a campaign for this, which we bought, but we never actually played that one. That was the only expansion we have that we didn't dive into. But I definitely have felt like at this point in its lifespan that I'm totally okay not ever really touching it again. So that's Descent: Journeys in the Dark, the original one. This next one's interesting, and I don't necessarily know if I'd ever would not play this game again. But I'll tell you that I don't ever ask to play this, and nor do I request it. But it doesn't mean I don't like it. Wingspan is one of the first games I played that was like a true mainstream game. I felt that was, in my opinion, just a very good game. A lot of people hate on Wingspan, saying it's a bad game or boring or just overly, I don't know, like the theme's bad and all that. I don't honestly know where they're coming from. I think Wingspan is a really good game. I think the birds have very good synergies in terms of what their real life counterparts do with their cards, and they make sense. The art's great. The components are great. I think it's also very good to introduce players to the hobby that might not be into gaming. I think Wingspan is an incredibly great game, and I think we are, as gamers, are extremely fortunate to be able to have this game. But I've played Wingspan so much, not just on the physical copy, but also digitally as well on Steam, that I have, at this point, I think, figured out everything I can of Wingspan. And when I say that, that means our player group has basically hacked this game so much that every game was coming down to 90 to 120 points, which in Wingspan terms is a lot of points. Like, we're consistently getting over 100 points. I feel like we figured out the game. We figured everything out that we can gather from this system. And I think at this point, it's time for me to be okay with either letting it go, which I don't think I would, because, again, it's such a good game for specific situations. And that's why I've kept it in my collection. I like looking at it. I like putting it on the shelf and putting it there, but I don't think I'll ever play it again. At least not for a very, very long time. So that's Wingspan at number 8. Number 7 is a interesting one. We have Wild Descent, and this is from Lazy Squire Games. Now, Wild Descent is one that I enjoyed very much when it fulfilled. I played it quite a bit. I did a review for this one. I called it a diamond in the rough. And I think the rough has outweighed the diamond aspect for me, as the rules were just really convoluted and hard to get through, that it made the enjoyment that the experience was less exciting to do. And when I would play this and have to play with someone new, trying to explain the rules again and having to use all 3 different rule books to go through it was just a pain in the ass. I mean, bottom line, it was a pain in the ass. And I thought, okay, Levon Rising is coming out. That's supposedly going to fix a lot of problems. Let's back it. And as I sat there waiting for Levon Rising, the additional expansion plus fixes for this game, I realized I don't think I even really want this game anymore. So I've canceled my pledge of Levon Rising, and that means Wild Descent is probably DOA at this point. It's not a game I'm going to play again, and it's going to be on my next call list when we get there. I think Wild Descent might be good for some people who like the combat nature of it, where you're trying to capture different types of creatures and the interaction. But for me, it's just not worth the time. And that might be a theme you might see throughout this video, is not worth the time. Next is my father's work. I have it on the upside down in the back, which drives me nuts. This is Renegade Games, I believe, and yeah, just Renegade Games. So my father's work, this is my titular Halloween game. We play it around Halloween time every year. And it's a game where you are taking on the estate of your fallen either father or mother, whoever, who has, in this it's my father's work, but you are a mad scientist who is trying to, not necessarily mad, but trying to, achieve your scientific goals, whatever that may be. But of course, with all scientist development in this era, it leads us down into some crazy, weird situations where you're doing some weird stuff. My father's work, the way it made itself interesting at the time when the Kickstarter was going on, is that it has 3 separate scenarios, and within those scenarios, the decisions you make as a group will change the layout of the town, and the story will evolve with you. And I thought that was incredibly exciting. I was like, man, that's so cool. You can play the same scenario and maybe get different outcomes, or see what your decisions can evolve and change with the city. I thought that was kind of cool, and I still do think it's cool. The reality is, though, is my father's work takes a heck of a long time to play, and the reality is I don't think once I've completed all 3 scenarios to the fullest, like where I completed all 3 scenarios, that I am willing to want to go back and play anything over again that I haven't done. It's just too much. It's just too much of a time sink, too much of a commitment. The gameplay is good, but it overstays its welcome for me. And the question is, do I keep this around for another year? Do I, go through the process of having to relearn it, in full again, because we won't touch it till, maybe September, October era, where we'll play a few times. And I just don't know. I think it's not worth it. At this point, the last time I played really made me solidify my thoughts that maybe my father's work has fulfilled itself in my heart. It's no longer doing what I want it to do. And again, that's also a common theme with most of these. We'll change one up for the theme-wise. Let's do this one. Destinies by Lucky Duck Games. This one I did a review for as well. I very much enjoyed Destinies. It's a game where you are going to be taking on as a character, and you're going to be exploring your territory using these cool little, they're like little location cards. And on those location cards are going to be different things that you can interact with as you try to achieve whatever it is your goal of your character. I thought Destiny's was really interesting, but as you progress through the story kind of muddles itself, and I didn't think it really integrated very well. Yes, they tried to, at the final chapter, make it all make sense. I didn't think it was a very good way of doing it. It kind of felt lazy and quickly, almost like rushed in a sense. But once you have completed the full scenario, I've gone back and tried to play it again with another friend, for another playthrough. And as we got to like third or fourth chapter, I was like, this is so boring because nothing is changing. It's all the same. It doesn't really matter if I play a different character because there's 3 characters who all have overlapping objectives. It also puts me at a severe advantage to my opponent because I've already kind of seen the layout of the place. I know where things are most likely going to be or where they're going to be. And it puts, in a situation where this game only has one real playthrough in it before it's done. And once I realized that, it has quickly found itself on my call list and will be gone here shortly. That's Destiny's. Okay, we're getting to the final 4. And they're all spicy, spicy takes. Let's do this one. Scythe, also by Stonemaier Games. And I was checking to see if I had any Stonemaier ones down there. Scythe is one of the first games that started me in my collection of board games. I owned board games prior to owning Scythe, but when I bought Scythe and I got this big box version of it and completed the collection for it and got it fully painted as well, is when it really kind of snapped something in my brain which said, you need board games, and I kind of went crazy with it, right? Scythe is, it looks like here it's like a, grand scoping, maybe war game with mechs and whatnot, but it's really just an engine builder where you're going to be sending workers out to different types of tiles that have different types of resources who are going to collect those resources so that you can build different types of buildings or mechs as you try to get your engine flowing, and at some point trying to achieve 6 different goals of a list of different types of achievements. So they could be the first one to deploy all your mechs, be the first one to have the most hearts, which is people loving you, or having the most military power, which is obviously military control, things like that. But it wasn't geared towards player interaction very much. There is combat in the game, but it's very light and very rare in most instances. Even with the center hex of the game being like the factory which you want to race to control, I found a lot of people were okay just letting someone get there and not really caring for the additional card that you can get from going there. Especially if someone already beat you there, they most likely got the best one. So a lot of people are like, it's okay, I got other things to do. And Scythe is one of those games that really always made me feel like I was behind. Like, you're just 2 turns behind. You need to do this and this and this, but you got to do these things first. Constantly giving you that anxiety, which is cool. It's not a bad thing. It's not a negativity thing. But the reality is I played Scythe enough that I just don't get excited anymore. When I look at the game, I just don't have a desire or a want to pull it out. I think it's played itself, and I've seen everything that Scythe can offer to me. The only reason I haven't sold it is because I have invested so much personal love and whatnot into the collection, into the pieces, into the paint jobs, that I just don't know if it's worth it to me yet to leave my collection. But I haven't played it since I think 2020, maybe 2021 might have been the last time this one actually hit the table for me. Well, so it just sits there on the bottom shelf of the Calyx, looking pretty. I also, whatever. What can you say? It's a good game. I just don't think I play it enough. So I don't think I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say it's a good game, but I've overplayed it. It's done what I needed it to do. And this is one. Oh, I forgot to grab one. Let's grab that one first, because they kind of go hand in hand. Forgot to grab this one. Luckily, it's in arm's reach. And that's Nemesis from Awaken Realms. Nemesis from Awaken Realms. Nemesis is a game where you are going to be a certain type of character, captain, soldier, medic, stuff like that. And you are going to be awakened on a spaceship, the Nemesis, and everything's gone to shit. And there's going to be aliens roaming around, causing chaos, and you are going to try to survive, as well as trying to achieve your personal goal. Now, they're going to have two different goals. You're going to have a corporate goal, what your bosses want you to do, as well as your personal goal. And those may be obviously conflicting. They might be, have the ship return to Earth and make sure that you have an egg with you or something like that. Or you can have one that says make sure player 2 dies. There are, this means it's semi-co-op, so players can be going out of their way to also harm you, as well as the game going out of its way to harm you in a big way. Nemesis is one of the most thematic experiences I've played. I loved a lot of the experiences that I've had with Nemesis, but Nemesis is also a game where I've had some very negative experiences, which was just a slog and not an enjoyable experience. When I say that, it's hard for me to look at a game, especially one that potentially could take up to 4 hours to play, and say, do I want to risk a game night of 4 to 5 hours potentially and have a potentially negative experience? I want my experiences to be consistent. I want my games to be consistent. And that has made it so Nemesis hasn't been played in a while comparatively. And now that I've played Nemesis Aftermath and I've seen some of the changes that are designed for that system, I don't see me going back to this one again. And I'll probably hold on to this until Aftermath arrives, maybe 6 months prior to delivery. But at some point, I think Nemesis will find its way out of my collection, which is weird for me to say, because this is another one of those games that has just been a mainstay of my collection. It was something that I never thought would leave, kind of like a cornerstone piece. But I just don't know if I'd ever see myself playing it again. Let's just throw this up here. This one is an interesting one because it kind of goes in line with what I just said about Nemesis. And what's also interesting about this is that TI4 has historically been in the top 10 of my games of all time. Twilight Imperium, and I will still say that now, is one of my favorite games. It is an incredible experience. You are going to be taking on as an asymmetrical faction, going against different your other opponent players who are also playing on asymmetrical factions on a widespread map where you're going to be capturing different planets, exhausting their resources, building your fleets, eventually going to conflict as you try to control Mechatol Rex and control different types of victory points to get the 10 victory points needed for victory. I played the hell out of this game, especially in 2019, 2018. I think we were at one point playing at minimum once a month, but sometimes 2 to 3 times a month, we were playing this game. I loved it, and I still do. But the problem with Twilight Imperium, and this is probably that I've been recently saying, is one, I played it a lot. I've got maybe 25 to 30 plays of Twilight Imperium under my belt at this point. And the desire for me to host and set up the game has dwindled over the years, and I think it's because of sometimes having negative experiences, just like I said with Nemesis. When you have a game that can last 8 to 12 hours, and I will say most of our games last around 8 to 9 hours, so the 12 is the far beyond range, which doesn't always occur, but it can occur. But when you have a game that can last all day, the possibility of having an experience that's just not rewarding is not good. I would say that was my last experience, was also not a rewarding experience, and it might be why Twilight Imperium has found itself here. The problem with that, though, is it's almost always directly related to the player group you're playing with. The way people interact with each other, the way people respond to being attacked, or the way people don't do anything. They just sit there being NPCs effectively. It can really deter the overall experience that Twilight Imperium can take. But again, that is also part of the experience that could happen. So take it as you will. But Twilight Imperium is one that I am very glad I've got to experience as many times as I have over the years. I just don't necessarily think I want to dive down that path again. In fact, after we played our last game, I asked people in the group if anyone would be interested in playing an old game with me, Axes and Allies. I was like, man, I kind of want to change it up. If we want to, let's maybe try something different, something that's also less time, because you can do the 5 to 6 hour cap time of Axes and Allies, which is great. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that an interesting take for me with Twilight Imperium? We have 2 more left to go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, 2 more left to go. And this one has also found its way onto my call list. And I've talked about this recently on videos, but let's finally break it out here and talk about it. On Mars by Vita Sara was one of my favorite Euro games for a while. I kickstarted this back, I believe, in 2019. I was super hyped about getting it. I remember watching a lot of gameplay videos. When it finally arrived, we played it several times. I enjoyed all my experiences, but I had a very tight-knit group in 2020. When COVID hit, that group really fell apart, unfortunately. So I've had to play on Mars. I had to rebuild a new group from scratch, effectively. Bringing people in who would cycle in, and it's taken me a long time to actually build the group that I have now. But during that period, because On Mars was such a high benchmark for me, I kept trying to introduce it to these people, and it was just a miserable experience. Trying to teach this game for hours and then playing this game that takes about 2.5 hours on its own, I just got burnt out. And I thought, my God, I would be happy if I never had to teach this game again. I think it was one of those things where it's like, I got everything I wanted out of you. Thank you for giving me all the joy and experiences that you have. But at this point, I'd rather someone else take that journey now and experience it, because I think I'm totally done. And this is when I'm fine with letting go. And at this point, I'm also probably never going to dive into another Lacerda game as it is. I just don't think I have the mental capacity with the channel, with all the games I have, to really want to dive into a heavy Euro. Well, not that they're complicated for me to play, but just trying to teach it to a diverse group of people, it just doesn't sound like something I want to do anymore. It's too much work. Having to learn all these games as it is for this channel is already a burden. So trying to put a game that's, a 4.5 weight is just too much. The final game I'm going to put on here is Heat, Pedal to the Metal by Days of Wonder. This is one that I was so excited to get this year. I played this originally at, what is it called? The Level Up Retreat. I played this with Antlab Games. They had their copy, and I loved it. I was like, this game is so cool. What a fun little racing hand management system. So as soon as I was able to find this at my local game store when they came in on the last shipment, I picked it up. Paid way too much for it, by the way. I felt so stupid. Bought some sleeves, and then as soon as I did that, I've seen like Game Nerds having it for like $50. I'm like, damn it, I just paid like $90 for this freaking thing. So it's also bugging me because the box is upside down. You know me, guys. I just cannot stand when the box is upside down because I'm trying to look at the back as well. So Heat, it's a card racing game. So you are going to be driving around these tracks with your little 1940s through 60s. I can't remember the year. What did they actually say it on here? I don't see it anywhere quickly. But they're older type of race cars, Grand Prix cars, and you're going to be racing around the track by playing cards from your hand, and the speed that you're going to be traveling will have a number indicated on the top of the card, so you play 2 of those cards and you'll be going that speed. The interesting thing about this is there are turns that you're going to have to navigate as well, and if you go faster than the turn, you're going to be taking heat into your engine, which is going to be something you're going to have to mitigate and slow down for and be prepared for. It was a really interesting idea, and as I played it, introducing new people and bringing everyone over and saying, let's play this, I think the veneer wore off quicker than I thought. And it became evident that while it's a good game, it's a very shallow game. And I don't think that it rewards like good players. And maybe I'm wrong here. I'd love to watch like a pro Heat player play against beginners, and I want to see if they can lap them or something. Because what I see is it just always comes down to the final turn or so and who has the best fastest hands that they've been able to hand manage as you come up to the final straightaway as it goes. It just seemed like people are always able to be relevant, which is good. The catching mechanic is pretty powerful in this one. And it just made, because of that catching mechanic, it didn't feel like you could ever really truly break away. And especially because the drift mechanic, being able to just move 2 spots, just meant that there was really no way for anyone to get out ahead of the pack because they're playing at an optimal level. And that kind of really killed it for me. And it just made it feel like, wow, this is just kind of a game, just a game, just nothing special. It was fine. I wish there was more customizations. They have options for you to draft some customizations. I can't play it any other way than that. And I wish there was even more customizationable options. You've got the thing with the spectators taking pictures of you, but those are one-time use cards. And there's just not enough. There's just not enough options to make this game really feel like it's exciting for me and giving me the opportunity to feel like I'm building a car that's unique comparatively to my friends or my opponents, and one that I can truly set apart from the other people. And it also felt like everything came down to speed. King is the best, and if you're able to go through turns at a higher speed or just have a very fast straightaway card, that those are just almost always better, and even if at the cost of sometimes getting some heat. So that's it. Those are my 10 games that I probably could be fine with if I didn't play again, with some asterisks, obviously. I think Twilight Imperium is one that I definitely would play again if I had a group that wanted to play it with me. I wouldn't say no. I'm not going to say no to it. But I would definitely say no to On Mars. I've said no to Nemesis multiple times. I definitely would not play Destinies. My Father's Work I'd play maybe one or 2 times, maybe. Wild Descent I'll never touch again. Scythe, if the group truly wanted to play, I'm not going to say no. I'll play it with them. Descent I'll never touch again. And Wingspan I'd play again. It depends on the occasion. But that gives you guys kind of a range of ideas of 10 amazing games that I'm probably totally okay with not ever playing again. My name is Brian. I would love to know what you guys think about this. Leave a comment in the comment section down below telling me what games you would be totally okay with cutting out of your collection or never playing again. I would love to know. If you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe. I'd love to have you join the my channel, the Game Brigade community. We have a Discord and a Patreon. Check out the links down below. I appreciate your support. Anyways, my name is Brian, and I'll talk to you very soon.